The CIA, they use astrologists. Fortune
Yeah, you
500
fucking ain't right.
companies,
They do.
they use astrologists and numerologists. I do readings for people, well, numerology readings, and you can see people who I incorporate when I help them build their social media accounts. I do it based off of astrology along with numerology to show them like, hey, your life path says, oh, you're very nurturing. So if you were to build a content around your relationship, it would flourish. And it does. That's how you use the code to your advantage, by knowing what
And
works.
they knew this, you know. I mean, the pharaohs of old, they had, listen, astronomy was part and parcel with astrology. Astronomy and astrology, they were the science that was. It was only this modern day where they're like, people are like, astrology is a pseudoscience. No, for fucking thousands of years, it wasn't a pseudoscience. It was a science. It was the biggest and most important science especially for people in charge of large amounts of people. They always had their astrologer and their astronomer, and they were usually the same people, right? Telling them, is this a good time? Should I do that? What is the future? What should I do? Because the answers were in the stars. Welcome to Far Out with Faust, everybody. I am Faust Chicho, and today I'm very excited. I'm delighted to be joined by Marco Williams. Let me tell you about this cat. As soon as I saw his content, I was like, this is a brother from another mother. I mean, everything he was saying was just completely aligned, you know. And I was like, I got to talk to this cat. So let me tell you about him, what he's been up to. He was a dedicated firefighter. He was an EMT, and his life underwent a transformative journey amidst the flames and chaos of that profession. He was very busy battling infernos and saving lives, and encountered a series of profound moments that acted as a catalyst for what you could call spiritual awakening. And these experiences shifted his perception and ignited a profound calling within him. So after that, very motivated and intrigued by the interconnectedness of life and the delicate nature of our existence here, he set forth on a journey and an inner odyssey. And his time in the trenches served as, you know, an impetus for this cosmic shift that he was undergoing. And he wrote a book called How to Listen to the Universe. That was more recently. And he's dedicated now. His life is dedicated to guiding others on a journey of self-discovery and spiritual awakening. And his mission is to empower individuals to embrace their innate potential and navigate life's challenges with resilience and clarity. Marco, welcome. Thank you for beaming in, brother.
Thank you for having me here. That was, my journey, I'm seeing as a full circle of the different perspective, because for those who don't know me, I am still in the fire department. This is my ninth year. Nine is the year of completion. So I told myself way back in the academy, they said, you have 30 years here. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm not doing that. That's a long time. So I told myself I'll do 10 years and then flow wherever the universe takes me from there. And I feel like this is where it is taking me, like from doing the master classes, doing a lot of one-on-one consultations with people, doing numerology readings. It's just teaching people how to really tap into themselves. And that's where I'm starting to align to. But it was a journey for myself. I had to tap into myself. And going back on that, I joined the fire department because I had my son, and I was at a time in my life where I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was just, let me do something to take care of him. So the fire department came about, and I was feeling like I still don't, yes, I'm a firefighter, and this is a great career for people, but it still doesn't feel like me. Something is missing. What is it? So I had a modeling journey because a photo went viral when I was on the fire engine, and it led me to become very egotistical, where I was so focused on putting it out, like traveling, doing modeling shoots, acting, doing all this stuff. And I was like, this still doesn't feel like me, and I'm still being drawn by my ego. So that's another reason I deleted that account that was associated with that energy. But what really shifted was I encountered a woman who had a near-death experience. I can't really say what she died of, but she was I will be 33 this year, but this woman changed my life because she died. We got her back. Her family was doing CPR on her, and I think that was one of the main reasons that she did come back, because she had early resuscitation efforts brought upon her. And when we got there, we did maybe 2 rounds of CPR, and next thing you know, she's looking around. I'm like, wow, this is my first patient that I ever had the opportunity to bring back to life. So there was this thing in the back of my head that said, ask her what she's seen. What, and I was like, no, I'm not. I'm going back and forth in my head. Like, I'm not going to ask her about what she's seen. But I'm glad I did, because this woman said, I'm pissed off you guys brought me back, because everything I was running from and everything I was trying to escape from, you guys brought me back to it. And I was at one with the universe. I was one with source. I saw the beginning of time. I saw the end of time. I saw every life that I've ever lived.
Wow.
And that struck a nerve, because I was like, every life that you ever lived, I've had visions of past lives and different things playing out, but it was hearing it from somebody else that really connected the dots for me, where I was like, I really held on to that, being one with source and living different lives. So then I started doing more research into past life regressions, and I started seeing how it's very popular in Eastern philosophy, and how I was brought up Christian, and I really felt like I didn't resonate with it. I was like, I feel like it's just a narrow portion of what is being told, but there's more to it that meets the eye. And that's why I give the utmost respect to every religion, because that encounter had me explore a lot of Eastern philosophy, looking into Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism.
Yeah.
I started to see the connection with the universe, how we are one, and we have this limited, man's senses are limited. I mean, for crying out loud, we can barely see beyond the typical light spectrum.
That's right.
So for us to really say that this is absolute, this is the way, this is the light, I didn't jive with that. Right. I was like, there are many different paths to source, and this is all just a journey. And that's where I came about my own transcendental moment, where I had my own past life regression, and I saw how, and I mentioned this in the book, how the reason that my son is in my current life was to elevate me, where I'm supposed to forgive him for a past life karma that him and I are indebted to. In another life, he was my brother, and he unalived me, and we were auto body repairmen. And it seems like something so minute, right? It's just a simple life. But I had many lives before that, but the one that really needed to be forgiven was the life with him. And I couldn't really tell him that. And that was kind of more the inspiration for the book, because it was to tell the story where I'm not going to tell you this is what happened, but when you are ready to pick up this book, you can learn about reincarnation, past life regressions, why you're here, learning about source. Just because you stole a candy bar in elementary school does not mean you're going to hell. Like, this is all a journey for us, and that's what I learned.
There is no hell.
Right. That's all I feel like my purpose in this particular incarnation is, to help people see the different views, to see a different path, to see beyond the limited perspectives that we all have.
You know, it's funny, as you see people's perceptions continue to expand, you know, like I just noticed there's been a slew of recent kind of, I don't want to call them talking heads, because you know, they're all good people, I believe, in their own right. Russell Brand, Candace Owens, and even Sean Ryan, you know, and as they get a greater understanding of the truth of this reality, they, you know, obviously then it starts to expand into the metaphysical and spiritual, and sometimes that leads to religion, you know. Russell Brand, he's an enigma. I like Russell. I met him, and I respect him. He's a phenomenal orator, a brilliant mind. I'm not sure why he's having this, you know, it feels like an affair with Christianity. He's so spiritual, and he's so well read as far as philosophy and Buddhism and mindfulness. But he seems to be enjoying it. And if I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in Christ consciousness, and I believe that there's a lot there to be unpacked, and that it can absolutely be this incredible source of inspiration for your life, But I don't believe that we were meant to, worship him, and I don't believe in any of the bullshit I was raised with. I was raised Catholic. I was an altar boy, and nobody had any answers for me. And like most kids who don't get answers, they stop asking questions and they stop giving a shit. And that was me. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't care. I thought it was bullshit that I was going to go to hell just for touching myself as a teenager. I was like, over and over, I'm like, if this is a cardinal sin, then I'm fucked anyway. Like, why would God do this to anyone? Why would he do that? It doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm not allowed to be with women until I'm married, because why? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
how is that like, is that not a hypocrisy? You know what I mean?
It feels restricting, right?
Completely restricting. I mean, don't get me wrong. In some cultures, maybe that's how people are raised, and that's fine, and it may be what's best for the time. But nature is the ultimate, revealer of what God is about. I think God speaks to us through nature. So whenever we do something that goes against, the natural rhythms of things, it's like, what would make you think that was pleasing to God? And why would God give you free will and then say, oh, listen up, you little shithead. Now that you've used your free will, you're banished and you're fucked for eternity. You know what I mean? Eternal suffering and damnation. I don't believe that for a moment. I have children myself. I can look at them and see clearly, unconditionally, there is nothing they could do, nothing that I would not forgive them for and bring them back into my embrace. I would never banish them. And I know that I'm not more, omnipotent or forgiving than the Creator. So, I mean, that's it. I'm a little closed-minded and jaded about the Catholic religion in general, as you can probably tell from some of the emotion coming out of my voice. But it is what it is. I resent the fact that they make children believe that they're going to be punished for being themselves and for following their, the biological programs and rhythms that they were born with. I think it's wrong to have kids be walking around. I was praying for my salvation at 15 years old, convinced I was doomed. You know what I mean? That's not good for a psyche. I had enough fucking trauma and abuse growing up. I don't need that on top of it. You know what I mean? It's wild.
I'm glad you hit on this, because I want to talk about this. Why I truly believe that this world is ran by Luciferic beings, and what is up is truly down, and as above, so below. But when you go to the Vatican, you see how demonic it really is. And it makes me really resonate with the Gnostic concept of the demiurge, how the Most High, the true God, is within the divine pleroma. And, like, that is where you see how mythology, Loki tricked the world into believing that he was God. And same with the Gnostic concept with the demiurge, who tricked the world into believing that he is God. And you see the Old Testament God seems to really parallel with a very jealous kind of God, where you shall worship me. It's very egotistical. It's very, you need to do this. You need to live this righteous path. And the Gnostics believe that Yahshua, Jesus, was sent by the true God to show people their true divine light, to have them receive liberation. And that's why I say, like, the people, history is written by the victors, and the Gnostics were, of course, persecuted, and they had a different sect. The Cathars, they were also persecuted as well. That was also one of my past lives. I was a Cathar who was persecuted for.
Oh my God, I'm reading about them right now. Literally right now, I'm reading this book about the Knights Templar and so, how they were part and parcel. They were basically made up of the Cathars, which was just another way of saying these Gnostic belief systems that were kind of alien to the church. But go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, that was, I put it in a skit before where it was like, oh, a life in Salem and a life as a Cathar who was persecuted, for teaching them that this is essentially, it's very interesting how trends kind of play out in your life, where I said reincarnation, you have various trends. Like when I go back to my son, I was a mechanic, and in this lifetime I had to learn to be good with my hands again, to learn how to be a mechanic or how to operate, because there was a lot of trauma where I was like, oh, power tools, I don't want nothing to do with that. But now, after shining light on that life, it's now I've become better with power tools. And as a kid, my favorite movie was The Matrix, and it was just a concept that aligns to like what I think I was 8 years old at the time The Matrix came out. It's like, what 8-year-old is really into The Matrix? But my mind seen it, for some reason it resonated with my mind. And that's how I believe the Gnostics perceive this world, as a matrix, as a fake. We keep coming into this Archon soul trap by these Luciferic beings who are harvesting our energy, such as in the Matrix, to keep you in this trap. And that's why the fake God doesn't want you to go with what is natural for you. Like you said, it's okay for me to do the things that I want to do. I want to jerk off. It's normal. I want to have sex. I want to live a relationship. This is nature. This is our human instinct to want to survive. And for you to tell me that I'm wrong for doing that, that
Guilt
doesn't
and shame,
seem right. So this is why I think that this realm, it's beautiful, and that's what the Gnostics believe, that yes, we all have this divine light, and it's not about, we have to find a balance where we can't get too escapism. Oh, there's a savior coming to save me, and oh, this materialistic world, I don't want to be too caught up in it. You have to find balance within the two worlds and make them meet, because that's how you truly escape this matrix, is going within yourself, being one with yourself, being happy, and finding that light. That is the light that we all have. We get so caught up into this illusion. Oh, I have to find success here. I have to be this big time CEO. I have to make a lot of money. This is all the tricks of this matrix that's designed to keep you coming back so it can harvest your energy. You're going to keep on getting enslaved to this consumer mindset, and you're not going to make time for yourself to meditate, become one with yourself, become one with source. So,
and then you're going to have to do it all over again. You know,
exactly.
like one of the things you talk about that I talk about a lot as well is, listen, you can do it now or you're going to do it later. But one way or the other, the universe is not going to give you a free pass. You know what I'm saying? You're going to get the same signs and the same lessons. So you can heal your shit now, or you can put it off into the next lifetime. Some people are at the point where it's too hard to even consider. And I understand that can be the feeling. But there are many people who have come before everyone who's listening who have just as much trauma as you, just as much shadow, just as much darkness, just as much pain underneath the surface. And if you are willing to begin to unearth it, to shine a light on it, on the other side of that, on the yin yang side of that, the symbol that I know Marco is that's part of his understanding of this gift that we call life. The other side of that pain is joy, is profundity, is fucking magic and miracles. But you got to be willing to dig, because you can't get to one without the other. One keeps you from the other. So, stop putting it off. If you're listening and this is for you, stop putting it off and start to do the work. If you look for the work will find you. That's all I wanted to say about what you just said. You know, and I know you talk about this a lot, so I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Oh yeah, absolutely. With shadow work, I tell people you could save yourself so much money if you just journal out what is it that you are, what truly triggers you. I realized that I did a form of shadow work the other day at my daughter's kindergarten graduation. There was this high school kid. His name was Nigel. He was a good running back when we played football in Little League. And my dad, he was one of the coaches. So I'm his son. But this guy was like the star athlete.
Yeah.
He bragged about him. Even still to this day, he was like, there was this kid named Nigel. He was good. So I saw that Nigel and my daughter they were in the same class. And I just realized that they were at the graduation. And he was like, I texted him. I was like, hey, Nigel's behind me. He's like, what? You see him getting like starstruck mode over living in this glory. But this is where shadow work comes into play, because this is, I'm comparing myself now to like, now
Right.
I'm not getting my own dad's admiration, like he's giving it to someone else. So now I have to feel like I got to go off in the world and produce. I got to be good at something that makes him give me that admiration. So I feel like that was a form of closure when I realized, like, wait a minute, I don't have to do, like, I've done the work and he's proud of what I've accomplished so far. And he's told, and it's like, that's what I've been waiting for so long. And it was like, this was the full closure on all of that, where I was waiting for this, but I see now where it stemmed from. It was from those moments playing football as a little 8-year-old kid that my shadow was formed, making me feel like I need to be better. I need to go out into the world and prove myself, prove my worthiness. And that's all of us. Like, we all have these inner demons that we need
Absolutely.
to deal with and find the origin of them so we can be, it's an alchemical process.
Yeah.
When you find that origin and you shine light on it, your life transforms because you trained internally. So now, like, instead of you being this way thinking you're worthy, you flip the energy, you code yourself. If you want to
Right.
put it in terms of a matrix, this is reprogramming, recoding yourself by going within yourself. And that's really it. Everybody's journey is different. We all have our own messed up stuff, and no
That's
one
right.
is here to judge you. It is what it is. You've done your dirt. You are who you are. But now, how can you be better? You have no one to compete with but your
That's
old
right.
self.
How can you love yourself more? And you know, the thing about religion and trauma,
We all have a lot of that.
you know, is it it tends to leave no one unscathed, right? But I mean, life in general will leave you with programming you didn't realize you had. But what takes the biggest hit when you're a child, I think, is the self-esteem, and then the what's built on top of the self-esteem. You know, it can be a bravado, it can be a rebelliousness, it can be so many things. You know, all of those things manifested themselves. I mean, I was doing crazy shit, and I didn't know why. You know what I mean? I was like, you know, I almost died a few times just because I was reckless, you know, but I didn't care, you know, and I was like, fuck everyone, because you know what was going on at home. There was no affirmation of anything. It was just, what the fuck did you do now, you know? And then, you know, there was a lot of competition, and it was just, you know, it starts to manifest itself in your behavior. You know, I think from the time you're a teenager, right? You can tell those kids that were raised right and the kids that weren't by their fucking behavior. By the time they're 8, 9, 10, you know, especially teenage years, right? People always say, well, there's no such thing as, there's no bad dogs. Well, motherfucker, that applies to kids too, you know. And a lot of times the kids don't even have parents. So it's like, you can't just blame the parents, but it's, you know, it was the upbringing that did it. But my point in saying all that is, if you, it's you, if you don't do the work, you know what I mean? If you don't find out, whether it be, you know, football or abuse or trauma, if you don't find out, then you're never going to get to the bottom of it, you know. And it's usually not one thing; it's usually a series of things. And then you can start to go back. You know, you start to go back into your relationships and see where, wait a minute, you know, why is my heart racing right now? My blood pressure is obviously up, and I'm like fucking ready to. My body's like giving me all the signals, like I'm ready to fight someone, and I am, when nothing has happened. You know, I just heard the way that my spouse said this, and I'm completely fucking, you know, why am I so triggered, you know, to get to the bottom of those triggers in order to, you know, deprogram them, in order to get rid of them and be aware of yourself so that you can be in a relationship without these unconscious mechanisms that are fucking things up. You know, that's all I wanted to try to articulate. I probably did a pretty terrible job of it, but
No, you did, because you know, your spouses, they're a reflection of you. Like, my partner, she was the one, I attribute the utmost to her along my growth as of recently, because if I'm being fully transparent, I was still coming out of ego when I met her. Like, I'd say she's a divine masculine figure. actually. That's the energy that she's a perfect balance, but she balanced me out. Like I had a wounded feminine energy. And before I met her, I was messing around with a lot of women. I was giving into lust and giving into ego. And she called me out on it, where she was like, why were you just hanging out with women? Like, did you not have any male friends?
Yeah.
Like, what were you lacking where you just felt the need to just sleep around with a bunch of women? Like,
Yeah.
that's not cool. And I'm like trigger, like thinking like, I'm the man, I'm getting women.
Yeah.
You like, it
She's
don't,
just jealous.
you're right. But then I'm like, wait a minute. No, you make a lot of sense, because this is where shadow work comes into play again, because I went back to my own childhood and I'm thinking like, wow, my mother didn't really give me the most affection. And yes, my parents were great at being physical providers, but I didn't get that nurturing affection. And then it goes back to her, like her own father, who didn't give her a lot of affection, but he was there for her, but he didn't give her affection. And you can see how these generational curses or these generational traumas follow us. And it's up to us to be the ones to break the cycle. So it's just like her explaining it to me from that perspective. And I'm triggered, like, you're just jealous. I was getting attractive women left and right, as opposed to looking at it as a reflecting tool of, no, you were wounded somewhere and you need to shine light on what was causing this. And when I took the time to really shine light on that, it was because of childhood stuff where I didn't receive the love. So you seek it in adulthood. You see it project in women who are promiscuous, and it goes the same with men. And I didn't look at it like that, because I was the one who was after these women who were fatherless and didn't had these daddy issues.
Yeah.
I saw this, but that is me reflecting my own stuff and not even realizing it.
That it's amazing how the subconscious, and the programming and the wounds and the arrested development that I think most 99% of humans are raised with some degree of, then brings itself into the behavior of that person as an adult and as, into the late teenage years. It's incredible, and when you start to realize and see your own, what has happened with yourself, then you really can start to sometimes help other people recognize it. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes the first inclination or impetus is to be like, hey, everyone, let me help you. You know what I mean? Like, no, first help yourself. First, you work on you. It's like that old meme of the person who's, the mailman comes to the door and like, did you see the chemtrails? And they're like, dude, let me go. Crazy motherfucker. Like, listen, like, it's everybody wakes up in their own way. And the question is, have you done enough work on you to really be able to love yourself and then love others? It's usually the answer is, most of the time, no. If your inclination is immediately to help other people and you've just started, then, that could be a form of escape. That's why I know so many social workers, psychiatrists, psychologists, they're so fucked up, dude. You know what I mean? I'm like, listen, take a little time, go back to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, those things in your life, they're not going to just go away, because you may be talented, and you have a big heart, and that's why you're trying to help people. But there's a lot to be said about returning to the self, healing the self, loving the self, then going back out and being able to help people even more.
You hit the nail on the head, because it's like the doctors who give you advice on how to live long, but they're unhealthy. And then you have social workers who do the same thing, or they're not taking their own advice. They haven't done the work on themselves. They studied all of this, but they have the most trauma within themselves and they don't do the work. It's just like I am my work. So I'm here to help others, but I never help myself. And this is where I say one of the downloads I received from the universe was help yourself first. It's not selfish. Work on yourself and then show others the way from there. But my content, for example, you see it shifted to I'm not speaking in absolute. I'm speaking from the perspective of, oh, there is this perspective and there is this perspective and there's also this. So hence the three people talking as a reflection of, yes, there are multiple perspectives, but I want you to draw your own conclusion, because it is not up to me to make you come to a conclusion. That is for your path. That is your journey. And
Right.
I think that's what I want. I don't need to have you convinced to see my point of view. I want you to see your own vision and then see multiple
That's
perspectives.
right. That's right. And it's a lot easier to see when you start to do this work, because we build these walls, we build these tunnels, and we put up, it's like, and this is natural, it's like when the body has, people think that tumors are but what a tumor is trying to contain that unhealthy mess that's in there. I mean, the body has an incredible way of trying to keep itself healthy, and as above, so below. We find a way to stay safe, and we kind of cordon off the parts that we don't want to see. And then you start to do that enough, and what happens to your vision? You know what I mean? You really have all these blinders, and people who have this emotional charge about other people, some of them they don't even know. I'm just like, hey, do you realize that that's not, first of all, that's not healthy, and that's not a normal thing, I mean, to have such an emotional, charge about something or somebody, you might want to look at that. You might want to look and see what's got a hold of you, because that's subconscious, that when that comes out like that. But I want to tell everyone who's listening, and because one of the things we talked about just now, and this is very important, if you're on a journey, if you're listening to this podcast, then certainly you have ears for this. And one of the things that helped me understand my upbringing and how fucking foobar it was a book called Homecoming, and it's by John Bradshaw. And he wrote another book called The Family, and I think it's like Bradshaw on the Family. But that laid out for me, much to my shock and chagrin, I think I was fucking catatonic for about 3 days having read The Family. It tells you what a functional, family is supposed to be. The role models that you're supposed to have, and what happens when you don't have them, and what happens when there's an alcoholic in the family, when there's abuse, when there's a rageaholic, when there's any kind of an addictive, out of control behavior in the family. What happens when there's a divorce? The psychological repercussions and ramifications that the child undergoes in that, right? I didn't have anything like that. I just had a lot of problems. And so a wise man told me to read those books, and I was like, oh my, I was in shock. I was like, because I was a new father at the time. And I thought, I am ill-equipped. I am ill-equipped in every way to raise this boy, to be a good father. I was not, I didn't have anything, that was a role model for the way that you're supposed to raise the boy the right way. I had my dad who did the absolute best he could. And he, which was no easy feat with twin boys and another brother who was, had a lot of handicaps. And so I have no ill will, but I was just like, I was a little scared at the time. But these books, those two books really helped me. So if you're like trying to understand, how do I know if I'm, because, you don't know until you know. That's the parental paradox, right? These books can help you. I just wanted to put that out there because it's a question that I get sometimes, and people are looking for answers. That's a good place to start.
I I thank you for sharing that. That's some real inner work right there. That it's deep, to put that on your dad's shoulders. You think about it as a dad yourself. He was figuring it out.
Oh yeah.
And you're figuring it out. We're all figuring it out.
We're all figuring it out. And he did the best he could. what the tools he had, and same with my mother, and this goes for really, and usually there's an improvement. You know what I mean? Usually the one generation is better than the next. Almost, I think most of the time. My dad, my dad's an awesome dude. I mean, he had a tough childhood, and I understand where his rage comes from. But he told me, and he was right. He was like, you're lucky. My father never kept his hand open. He always closed his fist when he would what do you want to call it? I don't know. I don't want to call it discipline, but when he would fucking beat him up for being, quote, bad. And I was like, yeah, I really feel so lucky all the time. He's like hand like a fucking piece of wood, but yeah, but he's right though, and that is something, that is something that he did that his dad didn't, and it sounds crazy, I know, and I'm not justifying the corporal punishment that I got, but I know, I understand that was his way of saying, you got it better than I did, and I did, and he's provided everything for me, so I have nothing but love and gratitude for him. He's the reason why I was able to find myself. It's through the darkest comes the brightest sometimes.
And that's all parents are. They're guides. I mean, we picked them. You go into soul tracks. We picked them for the exact reason. They were meant to guide us along our journey, along this particular incarnation's journey. And I see, like, now I connect with my dad more because he's starting to align to what I'm aligning to. Because back then I thought, like, oh, I didn't play as many sports, so I let him down. And you can see the cycle where he was one of those people that was the star athlete, and his dad wasn't there for him. So he said, I'm going to have a kid and I'm going to be there for him no matter what. So he did that for me, but I broke the cycle of just saying, I don't really care to play sports as much.
Yeah, there's that, right? How's that for the ultimate irony?
And I felt like I let him down, but like now he's seeing what I'm doing now, and that's what he's aligning to, and that's what he's supporting.
That's awesome, man.
That's the full circle where he's like, you were here guiding me too. Like it's the yin and yang, the balance, the duality of this whole aspect of what we call life. It's beautiful.
It is. It's really cool. It's awesome that he's coming around. I mean, boys, most of us, we seek that validation from our fathers. Whatever it is, in any way we can, until we realize that we've got it as much as we're gonna get it, as long as we continue to try. You know what I'm saying? And then there's the release of, and that's usually when everything comes flooding into existence. When you release the attachment to it.
Right. What were the two books you recommended again?
So
it's note of it.
It's called Homecoming by John Bradshaw, and the other one is called The Family.
Okay.
Also by Bradshaw. I'm sure my editor is going to plug in so if you're watching, you'll be able to see it. And they're fantastic books, and they're laid out. He was an incredible I think he was a psychiatrist, and he worked exclusively with kids most of his time. He wrote a lot of books. I mean, they even gave him a TV show at the height of his popularity, because his books were really the first time people were bringing that inner child work, which is so important, especially to men, to the world, so he kind of, like, they were offering him his own show and stuff. On one of the books, it was like soon to be a show on CBS. I was like, what show? The fan? Like, what? I don't know if it was ever a show or not, but fantastic book. You've read a lot of books, my friend. I love the fact that you have your recommended reading on your website. That I should do that, and I save time. But so I know your content is transitioning, but I want to tell you that I hope it doesn't transition completely away from what it is, because one of the reasons why I found you is because I loved your content and how you were doing things. So I hope you bring that same spirit and some of the same subjects into the transition. But you've been on Nick's Nick Zay's. How do you say his last name? Zai or Zay?
Zai, yeah.
Zai.
I
Nick
get messed
Zai's.
up with it too. Is it Z? Zai?
It's like
Nick Z, yeah.
crazy spelling. And he's, you've been on his podcast several times, and he has some very awesome spiritual figures on. So it speaks to your character. I got a chance to listen to some of those, and but one of the things that I don't have a lot of knowledge on, and I'll be the first to admit, is like numerology and astrology, and the fact that astrology was once completely interconnected with and part of the science and study of what's the
Like
counterpart?
occultism, like that.
Well, that and so there's astrology, and then the other one in the stars is what? It's also AST, but there's
You
astrology.
have topical astrology, sidereal astrology, Vedic astrology. Astrology is very complex, and I'm still learning it myself. And that, like, even though we're getting ready to do this master class where we're going to teach people astrology, numerology, and human design, it's a college level class of people who want to take it, who have somewhat of a little bit of a foundation of it, but it takes and builds on it. It's more along the lines of people who are trying to understand their soul's journey.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, remember I said the Matrix is my favorite movie.
Yeah.
And what do you see in the beginning of the Matrix? The binary code falling down. And what was it? Professor Gates at the University of Maryland was the one who said that, look, the universe is ran by code and Dinker codes. That's how it's all functioning. You see repeating numbers, and that's all numerology. If you're going to learn, I say when it comes to a spiritual journey, we're literally going in line with what we're talking about. You start off with working on yourself first. Start off with learning how you can become your best self by conquering your own inner demons, and then build that from that. That's your foundation.
Yeah.
Now that you got that foundation, then you can take on learning about the astrology, the numerology. But I'd say learn numerology before you learn astrology. Both of those are going to be lifelong studies. You learn numerology, you see your life path, like me, life path 33, master teacher. I'm meant to guide the collectively, intuitively, and that's what I'm high key shifting into.
Right.
Where I said numbers, they have their own vibrational frequency. Hence Tesla's 369. I guess because I'm autistic, I see numbers in different. Where my fire station, it's on Frederick Road, so that the route number is 144. It's Route 144 Frederick Road, and that is completion. 9 is completion in numerology. So the fact that my last year, that I feel is my last year, is my 9th year in the fire department, and transitioning to 10, that station's no longer going to be on Frederick Road. They're moving that station, and it's Station 4. I came back to Station 4 because I love the history. It's the only historic station we have there. And 4 represents foundation, stability, building your 4 corners, laying out that platform. So it was meant for me to go back to that station and really build my foundation for my future, because now you move on to the number 5, which is the year of change, the year of just transformation, change. So it's like, I'm not going to Station 5. It's a metamorphosis now. It's about to be a transition. I'm about to build what I'm supposed to build at Station 4, which is literally what I do. As I'm working, I'm literally writing out YouTube videos. I'm writing out the masterclass PowerPoints. I'm working, building foundation, but being grateful for where I am and what the fire department has brought me so far in my journey. If I wasn't in the fire department, I would have never had that encounter with that woman who allowed me to really go down and find my voice when it came to the spirituality side of things. And so I know, like, me being at Station 4 on Route 144 is very symbolic. 4 and 9. My birthday is 9/4. 4 are hard workers. For those of you who are born on the 4th, like, you're most likely a hard worker. When's your birthday?
The 7th, August 7th.
So yeah, you're very, and I see that in your work too. You're very intuitive. Like, that's that's what 7 encompasses. Like you are very intuitive, very analytical in how you go about things. So, and that's why I tell people numbers, I love numbers because they have their own frequency, and you see this it's a matrix. It's code. I say, looking at planets, or as we are born, there's a code written in the sky, hence astrology, that's telling you, hey, such and such, this is your life path. You already signed this contract of what you're going to come to Earth to do. But guess what? If you look amongst the stars, you can also tell what you're supposed to do too. It's all there.
Right.
Evangelina Adams, I have an interesting video about her coming up, still in my drafts, but that was JP Morgan's professional astrologist, the woman who made modern astrology popular in America. Now, what's interesting about her, she had this, you said it, astrology, the occultism was illegal. And she had this case brought up against her where the judge was like, hey, you're on trial for practicing the occult. And she owned up to it. She's an Aquarius, a very rebellious Aquarius at that. She's like, I practice astrology and I'm pretty damn good at it.
Yeah.
So he gives her a chart, and he says, oh, well, it says here, this is astrology. She had a team around her that calculated all of this because they didn't have computers back then, obviously. But she tells him that, oh, yeah, by the way, whoever this is going to die a very early, tragic, watery death. Now, unbeknownst to her, that was the judge's son.
Oh, wow.
And that was what convinced him to say, you know what? She's proved that astrology, she's not a fraud. Like, she's proved it to be a science. And it changed his decision. So a lot of big time corporate financial figureheads started working with her. And I tell people, when you start to look at astrology and numerology for more than just, oh, who am I compatible with? And really learn to see who you are and what you're supposed to do, how these systems govern our society, because what are we in? As we were transitioning from the age of Capricorn, that energy, you've seen a lot of influencer culture flourish, where these people you think about Vine happened, right?
Yeah, I remember.
Where it was a big influencer culture, to keeping up with the Kardashians. People were flourishing with that, where we're going through a financial collapse at the start of the in the Capricornian age with the housing market in 2008. But we're also watching people flourish who are rich and not suffering. But this new age of Aquarius, this is where we begin to shine, the light bringers. That is what Aquarius encompasses, information. So it's more along the lines of people who are giving a service to humanity. Those are the businesses that are going to flourish. And this is why big time, like a lot of people don't realize, a lot of my success or a lot of things that I do is based off of trends of the astrology. Because it's just, you see that, okay, if you are still stuck in the mindset of, take J-Lo as a prime example. She's very vain. She thinks her looks are going to get by.
She's
and
a bitch, I heard.
Right. But that energy is not going to flourish in this new age. No. What is going to flourish is stuff along the lines of vertical farming, holistic health, videos that share information of how people can better themselves. So if you're planning on doing a YouTube channel, your YouTube channel can either be along your journey, because my girlfriend and I's YouTube channel is our RV account, but when we move to West Virginia, it's going to be along the lines of like we're going to do vertical farming, homesteading.
You could still talk about, I mean, you could do both. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You could bring it right.
Separate, it's gonna be awesome. Yeah. Like where I talk about consciousness on this channel, but then you see the human side of me that is like, hey, I want to eat healthy. I want to grow my own food. I believe that community is the new income, because this is what the age of Aquarius is accompanying, where we are all interconnected. We are one. We're starting to see that. We're starting to shift from these old paradigms of, it's just me. No, it's we. It's us. We're in this together. Screw the people at the top, they're not helping us. So
No.
we need to help ourselves. There's a trend on TikTok that I'm really proud of, where people are paying off each other's debts just by making a video like, hey,
Wow.
they become creators. They're like, look, I am struggling. I just need you guys to watch this 1 minute video, comment this, and guess what? The people are coming through.
Yeah.
This is Aquarius energy. And this is why I say people, the CIA, they use astrologists. Fortune
Yeah, you
500
fucking ain't right.
companies,
They do.
they use astrologists and numerologists. I do readings for people, well, numerology readings, and you can see people who I incorporate when I help them build their social media accounts. I do it based off of astrology along with numerology to show them like, hey, your life path says, oh, you're very nurturing. So if you were to build a content around your relationship, it would flourish. And it does. That's how you use the code to your advantage, by knowing what
And
works.
they knew this, you know. I mean, the pharaohs of old, they had, listen, astronomy was part and parcel with astrology. Astronomy and astrology, they were the science that was. It was only this modern day where they're like, people are like, astrology is a pseudoscience. No, for fucking thousands of years, it wasn't a pseudoscience. It was a science. It was the biggest and most important science, for especially for people in charge of large amounts of people. They always had their astrologer and their astronomer, and they were usually the same people, right? Telling them, is this a good time? Should I do that? What is the future? What should I do? Because the answers were in the stars, you know?
Sure.
And so my question is, where can people, if people want to learn about numerology first and foremost, you know, where's a good place for them to start to acquire some basic knowledge of numerology that can help? Because look, guys, the rhyme is row your boat gently down the stream, right? It's not row your boat up the stream. It's not find the fucking rapids and see, you know what I'm saying? It's we want to make the journey as easy as possible and with as much joy. So knowing these things can help you to navigate gently down the stream, and that's why I think they're so important. So what advice would you give people who are like, all right, I'm sold, where can I start?
There is a book that I was gifted. I don't have it, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. And I try to look for it on eBay, but it's like $200, and it goes based off of ancient occult numerology. If I find it, I'm going to email it to you and give it to your editor, like the name of it, because I don't know it off the top of my head. But this book had so much information, and he can edit this in where I'm going to search for it as soon as we get off this podcast. But I think the book that I'm talking about, I wish I remembered the name. That book had the most accurate information, and it's almost in a form of, it's gatekept, and that's why you have to bid for it on eBay. It's like $200, and it's not on the top of my head, and I'm so sorry for that.
That's all right. Maybe it'll turn up for
it'll
us.
turn up. It'll turn up. I'll find it. But I came across a guy whose TikTok he was reading from, and I'm like, yeah, that's the book. This book has a lot of information, and he's like, this is the only book you need when it comes to numerology.
Wow.
In fact, you look at it, Pythagoras, it almost predates his information, because he got a lot of his information from ancient Egypt. He went over there and he founded numerology based off of Kemetic principles, and he came and improved on it, and he looked at it from the numbers having their own spiritual vibration, which they do. And you look at ancient Hebrew, like you look at gematria. I tell people, if you really want to, you could do this right now. If you want to learn numerology, start looking into the Hebrew alphabet. That is, quote unquote, we're not really religious, but Hebrew is supposedly the language of the Most High. So their letters equate to numbers. You read it from right to left.
It's the oldest one that's still in existence, you know. I mean, which is why I think it's considered to be the most relevant when it comes to understanding these ancient esoteric, you know, concepts.
And that's best advice I'd say is learn gematria, learn the Hebrew alphabet, and learn what your name equates to. Remember, start with yourself and start applying that to others. And then when you add on numerology, this is how I was very good at sports betting, because you take someone's name, see what it equates to. For example, you look at what was the Super Bowl with Matt Stafford and
Detroit versus
I think where Matt
Stafford
and Joe Burrow, when they went to the Super Bowl.
the Bengals. Who did
It's
they
a
play?
perfect example of where you see gematria and numerology playing out, where if you calculate Joe Burrow's name versus Matt Stafford has the higher numerical value. So it's an indication that on a big grand scale of something, he's more likely to win and succeed.
Wow.
Then you calculate stuff along the lines of, you look at what is going on in the time. It was the events of Ukraine. What were the Rams' colors? Blue and yellow. So it's just like, when you start paying attention to little stuff, you can get really good at sports betting. And I was really good at sports betting because I look at injuries. For example, someone in numerology, if they are on you are a life path, I mean, not a life path, you have a 7 birthday. But when someone is you have what is known as 9-year cycles.
Yeah.
If someone is in a 7-year cycle, they're more than likely to be injured. So therefore, I wouldn't draft them on fantasy. So it's just like, I played numerology. I won 4 championships.
Nice.
It's luck. It is a lot of luck. But
of course, but there's something to it.
It is. But when I started to use numerology, paying attention to different players and what the trends were at the time, then I was like, okay, I could bet this way. For example, who won 2020? I think Tom Brady won his Super Bowl, right?
I think it was the last one he won. Yeah. No, well, he won one more with Tampa.
You went Tampa, right? Where it was like after COVID. But if you look at it, COVID happened in a 4-year number. What were we doing we were at home. Well, what does 4 represent? It's balance, it's home base. And we were all at home. Tom Brady was the good old boy during the Patriot, when the Patriot Act was passed in 2001, who kept winning the Super Bowl? The Patriots. So it's like, America needed to feel comfort. We needed to feel at home. So who is more likely to win on a grand scale? Tom Brady. He takes the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and just completely takes them to the Super Bowl.
He was like, let me show you that I don't need that old man.
Right. It's all by design. And it's just like, now I feel like I'm not ruled by money anymore. I just want others to win. Like the master class, I was debating on adding a gematria portion of it.
Yeah.
But I don't want people to focus on, let me use this for my advantage on sports betting. Like, no, I want you to learn yourself first, because money does not serve the soul. It only serves the flesh. So I didn't want to kind of make that as my foundation when I put this out there.
Yeah.
So now we're going to just learn numerology for what it is, and
then they can apply it however they want.
You can apply it I'm going to give you some, but you can apply it from there as you want. Like, as this podcast, free game. It's just paying attention to the patterns, knowing how the universe connects to you.
And then, once you tap into your intuition, I always used to believe in luck. And it's not that I stopped believing in luck. It's just that I started understanding that we create our own luck with our beliefs, and like the more I was able to tap into my intuition, and I'm naturally a gambling man, as you may have guessed, from the recklessness stories I was mentioning. I started to really play with the law of attraction in some really fucking crazy ways. And I'm a comic book collector. I mean, I'm a longtime reader and collector. But I didn't get into collecting the they call them grails, the holy grails, speaking of the Knights Templar, of books. Like I didn't have a lot of the most sought after books. I had a lot of books, but I read them all. They were taken care of because my dad told me that if I didn't take care of them, he wasn't going to buy them for me. So the moment I got them, I had to be like, I had to take really good care of them, which is a good lesson to learn. But I started, as I was learning the law of attraction, I was entering into all these raffles. So you could you could try to win a book that was worth like $36,000 for $100 or even $10 sometimes. So it gave people a chance, who would never normally be able to afford a book like this, even if they had a fucking couple years to pay it off. So it gave the dealers a chance to sell a book over a period of time that might sit on the shelf for fucking 5 years anyway, and it gave like everyday Joes a chance to throw their name in a hat with, sure, maybe it's hundreds of other people, maybe it's thousands of other people, but you could still win a fucking book that is going to be part of your, something you could give to your kids, like a huge collector's item. And I started, I started winning. You know what I mean? I started realizing that if I wanted my name to be called, then I was going to have to dance like it was already called. And so I would make videos of myself knowing I was going to win, doing my celebratory dance, and I would send it to the group. And it got to the point where they were just like, I'm not fucking playing in his raffle if this dude's in the raffle. And I'm like, all right. I'm taking a break. I don't want it to be like that. You know what I mean? It got a little crazy there. But I won, dude. I fucking won, like, I don't know, more collectors books of that kind of value than I'm going to say, because it was nuts. Like I won tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars of books in raffles with hundreds of other people, and you know what I mean. Like people, it's just fucking wild. But I'm like, that's the law of attraction. If you can tune into it and believe it and know it, it will happen for you. I don't know how to explain it, but
I love
those
how
of you
you're
who know
proving
it,
how numerology works for you, because you had that 7 energy, which encompasses luck. And if you pair your intuition with your luck, you will have success with this realm. That's using numbers to your advantage. When you said this, I was like, are you a gambler? Are you good at it? The people who clear out Vegas, who Vegas has them on a watch list and like, he's not allowed at this casino.
Yeah.
I can promise you they're either a 7 life path or they have 7 energy in their birthday. Because you have that luck. They know how to bring in money. 8 energy also. Definitely 8 energy, but usually people who have luck, people appear to be lucky.
Yeah.
Usually have 7 energy.
And my name, apparently, besides meaning power in German, which is weird, and I'm not German at all. When you break down and look at the Latin of it, it means lucky one. Faust means lucky one, and I was like,
and this is why
I sent that over to the people in the raffle. I'm like, you guys are fucked, man.
You are, because look, numerology. You learn Hebrew and you learn the alphabets and you learn numerology. You'll see that when it comes to the Hebrew language and learning, a rabbi is not allowed. That is the only part he's not allowed in when it comes to naming the children, because they believe that the name that you are given is spoken by source. It's given to you by source. So your parents, it ties into everything's written by design. It's all part of the grand plan. You signed up for it. When you sign that contract, source goes in, tells your parents like, hey, this is going to be the name. Then you become born, and now the sky says, hey, this is your journey. This is what you're going to accomplish. You were born on this day, so you're going to be the lucky one. So your name and how you maneuver through this realm will be based off of luck and intuition.
Yeah. And having fun with odds and things like that. Absolutely. It can be a lot of fun, particularly when you're not attached to the outcome. I mean, and that's the other key ingredient. You can't have expectations. I mean, you know what I mean? Like you set the intention and you kind of tune into it, and then you celebrate it, and then you just gotta let it go. That's the tricky part.
That's manifestation in a nutshell. Like, you can't be too attached to the outcome. You already know, like, an Amazon package is being delivered. Guess what? You know it's going to come here. It's whenever it comes here. And anything can happen to that Amazon truck on its way to you. But guess what? You placed your order. and it's on its way to you. Don't worry about when it gets here. Just
Right.
continue to do you. Like, you're not going to stop your life because your Amazon package is going to be a day late. And that's what our manifestations are. It's just, don't get so caught up on the outcome. Just enjoy the art of existing, just being in this moment and being your best authentic self in that moment. Because first of all, tomorrow's not promised. You see a lot of people who aren't here along your journey. So if you manifest, hey, I want to be this big time CEO in the near future, but now you see there are a lot of people who are no longer, it's lonely at the top. There's a lot of people who aren't in your on your path no more. It's, you were meant to enjoy them while they were here. Everybody comes in and out of your lives for a reason, and they stick around. Some do, some don't, but it's all a lesson. And
That's right.
you, like, we're all on this journey. It's a never ending cycle, and we're going to go on from this octave. Law of One is a good book too that we
dude, because of you, I started reading it again. I really do have to start finishing books before I start reading other ones. But I was, I just, when I started to listen to your podcast, and I know that I bought The Law of One. I know that I've been meaning to read it for so long. And when I went to Amazon to see when I bought it, it said, you purchased this book in 2019. And I was like, huh. So I went to my Kindle and I found it and I started reading it again because I was like, why didn't I ever? And I was reading a lot of books at the time too, but I started reading it again thanks to you. And I also want to say that, I'm going to revisit, because I've been thinking, people say, you should write a book, and you're like, yeah, but what do I write it about? And so I was listening to you and Nick talk, and you guys both bit the bullet, and you sat down and you start writing, and I really want to start to dedicate some time of every day and just start writing and see what comes out, because I obviously, I have a lot to say, and people have encouraged me, and I got nothing to lose, so I might as well go for it. So you've inspired me to revisit that, and congratulations on your book. And what I also want to say, and I want you to talk about this too, it's so important to find things in your life, if you have the ability to, either some people are stuck in a job and that's a choice they're making. I know it all often feels like they don't have a choice in the matter, but I just want to remind you, if you're listening and that's you, that there's always a choice. And if you find, and follow what you love and what you're interested in, and you start to do it, then you can start to get into, and I want Marco to talk about, the benefits of finding a flow state in what you're doing and in your life, and what can come of it.
Oh my goodness, yes. Flow state. For those of you who don't know what the flow state is, it's just this state of awareness, or this state of being where you're just completely occupied with the moment at hand. That is flow state. And it could come from, for me, I use the example of when I play video games as a form of meditation sometimes, and I play Madden. And when a character gets into the X factor, that is what's known as, that character is in a flow state. But guess what? You have to be in a form of flow to get that character to be in a form of flow. So flow state is just that everything is just easy at that moment, because you're tapped into source. You're tapped into that etheric realm where if you meditate, that's aligning to flow. And you said aligning to your path is just going with the flow of the path of least resistance. Because here I am, I'm thinking, oh, I'm in the fire department, I'm studying to be a lieutenant, and it's not flowing. Like, I'm not an idiot, but if I'm being completely transparent, the fire department never came simple for me. I failed almost all my tests. I failed when it came to studying for the lieutenant's exam. I failed that. Almost every exam that I taken, it was a failure, and it's a journey, because I had to overcome that failure, but it wasn't natural for me. I didn't naturally flow into it. And when you are in that flow state, whatever you're doing, it's just going to fall into line.
Yeah.
You like, that's why I say
It's just going to happen for you.
it does. And this is where I know my journey is just aligning to, like, yeah, this fire department was a stepping stone, and it took a lot of trial and error to get here, but it led me to what I'm naturally flowing into. Like, now it's a path of least resistance, because now all these other opportunities are coming about. I'll be at the Monroe Institute next week, and I'm
Nice, dude. My twin brother was there like about 3 months ago.
It's an amazing, I think I really want to do the work to start speaking at the Monroe Institute more.
Nice.
But this was just the first stepping stone.
Yeah.
But this is what I mean by going with the flow. What is meant for you is going to be meant for you. And you don't have to feel as if you're stuck in a dead end job. I've had that feeling, and all it took was seeing someone like Nick. He showed me the light. We met at the Walter Russell Museum. You all should check that out too, down in Waynesboro, Virginia. But him and I met, and I was at a point.
You guys met at a museum?
It was it's called the Walter Russell Experience. Yeah. And we just learned about how it bridges science and philosophy. And everyone check. Terrence Howard mentioned his work too, but you would appreciate his work too. The Universal One is one of those intricate books. Once you finish the Law of One, read the Universal One, and you'll see how Walter Russell thinks outside the box, because he had a near-death experience, and it allowed him to connect to source. And this is where I say I just went with the flow, because I'm thinking, I saw Nick. He's living a nomadic life, traveling the world. He quit his job, and I'm like, I want to do that. Well, what are you doing? He wrote a book. Yeah. And then I got to the point where I'm like, I don't know what to write about. But then I thought about my path in the fire department, of how I had that encounter with that near-death experience patient. That's right. And Walter Russell had an experience that was very similar to that woman's experience. And I just started writing. And then from that writing put me in a flow state. That flow state led me to where I am today, where that book allowed me to start the business where I help others tap into their flow, or to see their potential, their divine blueprint. So it's all by design. It's just going with the flow, the Taoist philosophy of Wu Wei, where my girlfriend and I, we have a stick. This is another thing with flow. We were down in Gatlinburg, Virginia, and we were in the water tubes, and there was this guy who was floating along the river next to us, but her and I, we keep bumping into the sides. We keep on, we're like, why do we keep going to the sides? So I find this stick, and I'm like, I'm not going to go to the sides anymore. So I find this stick, and I'm thinking, like, that's going to keep me from going to the sides. Meanwhile, this guy who's kicked up in the air with his feet, legs, just going with the flow of the current. He's like, he makes fun of me. He's like, that's some stick you got there, because it was a little stick. And I was like, I'll show you. I'm going to get a bigger stick. So I get a bigger stick, and the stick is giving us a lot of resistance. It's keeping us, we're not going where we're supposed to go. And my girlfriend was just like, just put the stick down. Let's just go with the flow. So we went with the flow. Like, we went with the flow.
Stopped hitting the walls, I bet.
We stopped hitting the walls, and we just drifted down the river. That's actually a year ago today. It was on 4th of July, because it flipped on us where Gatlinburg, if anyone's ever been to Gatlinburg, you know there's this one strip. It's so packed, and a lot of people can't get in or out because there's so much traffic. So she's having a whole anxiety attack later on that night about, we need to get into Gatlinburg right now, because we're not going to find parking. We're not going to do this. I had a whole plan aligned to, I was like, look, I'm going to take you on the Anarchista. We're going to get to the top of the mountain, and we're going to see an amazing view of the fireworks at Pigeon Forge. And she was just huffing and puffing, having this anxiety. I was like, look, let's just stop and get some pizza, and let's park. And we were able to do everything. And the next thing you know, there's no line to the Anarchista.
No trap, right?
There's no traffic. We park. We get on the Anarchista, and the fireworks start. And she just was one of the best 4th of July she's ever experienced, because we're having this amazing view over Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge. You can see it over yonder.
Yeah.
And we get to the top and the fireworks show is still going. But guess what? There's a huge line of people trying to go down and experience this same view that we just experienced. But they purposely blocked it off so they didn't have that swarm of traffic. And this is going with the flow. When you go with the natural ebb and flow of life, everything will just fall in line.
Yeah. It's so true. And then being able to let go and watch things rush, and things will then rush into place. The moment you let go, and I experience this so often, and it's so profound, over and over. The moment I let go of this outcome is going to be what it is. I just got to sit back and relax, and accept it for what it is. And then bam, all of a sudden that outcome that I was white knuckling happens like this, like literally, like I just spent 3 hours like this, and then all of a sudden, bam, it's over and it's done and it happened. And I didn't even have to, I almost missed it. Like, as I looked down and I was just like, I'm going to be grateful for this moment and what's going on. And fucking wild, man. It's incredible. But flow states, guys, so they do it. There's a lot of science behind this now. There's obviously a metaphysical aspect and momentum to it that is very hard to articulate, but we're trying for you. If you want to learn about how this is not just a metaphysical experience, but it's literally something that the Navy SEALs, the Navy SEALs pay almost $1 million to take a SEAL to the physical max that he can endure, or she can endure. But if they can't achieve a flow state, they let them go. They have a hard rule in the Navy SEALs because they need for those guys to be preternatural and completely connected with when they go in somewhere. It's going to make or break someone's life if they have a sixth sense and a connection to their other SEALs. And that's the thing that they're trying to find ways, like, can we train this in people? But it's a flow state. It's something that they literally lose millions of dollars because some people can achieve it and some people can't. But I think that it comes with, they're talking about rigorous, it's in the heat of the moment, but the science that they've collected on this thing is how much, when a person's in a flow state, how much they put an EEG on them, like a skull map. And there's so much information coming into the brain. There's something like 1,000 times more than me or you just talking the way we are now. Maybe when one of us is talking, there's our hemispheres light up and we go into a flow state. But for the most part, if you were looking at like Michael Jordan when he's, racking up his 76th point for the game, and, he just looks at the camera and he's like, you know what I mean? But if you looked at his brain, it would look like a fucking, Christmas tree, like the Rockefeller tree on Christmas. It would be lit up. He's not even really conscious of how much information he's taking in. He just can't miss or throw a bad pass or do anything wrong. So there's a book called Stealing Fire. I forget, there was more than one person who read it, but that's, if you want to read about flow states and how you have some of the biggest, organizations in the world trying to figure out ways to help their people get into it, you can check out that book. It's a cool book. Great book.
Also, I want to say something on a simple level where you all can check out the movie Soul, where he's playing the piano, and he knew that if he was in flow state, he can bridge between the different realms, the after death realm and on the physical plane, if he got into flow. And that's the best, to sum up flow state, it's the bridge between the etheric realm and here. It's it's the closest you are to your higher self. You are connected to all the information of the universe while you're in that flow state. And that's why you appear almost godlike while you're in this realm, because that is where you're tapped in. You're tapped into the ether. And
you've seen people, they when athletes tend to go into it, it's like, oh my, he was in the zone or he's feeling himself now, because all of a sudden they know to get out of the way before the guy throws the punch. You know what I mean? They know where the cat on the court is before they throw the pass, even though they have not looked. You know what I'm saying? All of a sudden, they're taking in so much information and they're aware of it. So it can be an incredible experience if you haven't experienced it. And I think most people have in some way to some degree. You know, I've experienced it in every which way, and it's just beyond exhilarating. You know, it doesn't have to be, but it can be. You know, it can be something like 3 hours into a painting you're doing, and you're just like, oh my God, look at the time. You know what I mean? Like, but you were so into it, you were so present. That's a flow state, you know, whatever it may be, but you can find it. You can find ways to put that in your life. That's going to lead to synchronicities, and joy, and all kinds of things.
That's where you receive the downloads. That's where, because you're tapped into where the downloads come from directly. There's a boxer. What's his name? Whitaker. He dances while he boxes. I can't.
Yeah.
You could see him in flow state.
Oh, totally, man. Yeah.
It's almost effortless with how he's doing this drunken master boxing style, and he's just dancing, and he's able to tap somebody on the jaw.
It's crazy.
And
he's having so much fun. You know what I mean?
Like, and everyone's you see people rooting against him because they're got the traditional mindset where they're like, oh, you can't last with that drunken master style. Like they want him to like fail. Yeah. But he's having fun. He's at flow. And I had that same water bottle because you're.
Oh, no kidding.
That's the glass one, right?
Yeah, that's a glass one. Yeah, absolutely. We try to stay away from plastic these days.
Yeah, I'm trying to tell people this. It's expensive, but the microplastics are what's getting us. You want to hide from cancer.
Yeah, I mean, and I tell everyone else. Speaking of health advice, I'm like, if they gave a shit about health advice, they would stop putting everything in plastic. Do you understand? They know what's happening. It's not like they don't know. You know, I mean. It's not like it's hiding. Look at the ocean. It's right. It's overflowing. It's so toxic.
It is.
It's toxic. Insane. And there's no push for it. There's no. I mean, you have, you know, such and such banned single-use plastics. But then it was overruled, or you know. But we need to stop putting everything in plastic. Period. We need to find alternatives, and we need to do it now while there's, you know, still what we could call biodiversity on the planet. But it's like, and then those same people who are doing this are going to give me health advice?
Right.
I don't think so. You know,
you look at crazy. all the because we have a natural spring water near us, and everyone's like, "Oh, I'm not drinking that." And like, that's you could filter it all you want, but put in a glass, go to a natural spring. Anyone listening, you could look up the natural springs in your state, and if it's close to you, I highly recommend going to there, getting you a glass jar, and filling it up.
Yeah.
That water, if you're a water drinker, you can taste the difference between water that is natural spring, glacier water, mountain water, or anything. But I just know pee purified poison. That's how it just makes sense. You could taste the difference, and you can almost tell if you're in tune with your body how it's robbing you of those minerals that you need.
Yeah.
I put some Celtic salt in my water, and your body feels so much different.
Oh yeah, you need it. And salt's another thing that I had a whole podcast on it, because you know that salt they put on the tables that's not real salt. It's it's a chemical. I mean, I don't know what it is. It makes things taste saltier, but if you have real salt, there's a reason why, you know, the gorillas descend from the mountains to go get the salt licks, because they know their bodies need the salt. You know, animals from all over will come and they'll find a way to get the salt. They know their bodies need real salt, and ours are no different. You know, you need it to conduct, you know, electricity in the body, which is always what's happening. You need the salt. Anyway, that was my salt spiel. Marco, tell everyone where to find you, and how they can keep up with you, and also, we have to do an IG live together, because there's so much we can talk about. And I know that my regular listeners who tune into my broadcast would just love listening to you. And I'm sure we could get a lot of crossover followers with the two channels, pages.
Yeah, definitely. You can find me at Marco J. Williams on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. As long as they keep me available. I will try to not talk about certain topics that get me deleted, so you shouldn't have no problem not finding
TikTok
me.
they're a little ridiculous with their algorithms. I mean, they're just, I don't know if there's a person there. I just think it's all stringent, kind of ridiculous, algorithmic, like, strike, and then they just, it's like you can't even appeal. They're just deleting people. It's fucking crazy. And it's like, wait a minute, I didn't even say anything that you think I said. You know what I mean? Like, can I get someone to look at? Hello? Fucking, it's crazy.
I had no one to communicate with when they deleted me, and I sent tons of emails. But I was like, you know what? That's just a sign from the universe. I got to start over and rebrand how I want to go about it. And so I did that. So all of you all can find me at Marco J. Williams, and on all social media platforms, except I'm not on Twitter. I'm just on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Substack. I'm going to start doing more videos related to what I can't talk about on Substack. Versus on regular social media.
There you go.
I have a lot to say about certain things, but certain platforms don't like that.
Yeah, Substack's a good one to do it. I have a few people who I tune into, who are very plugged in and have a lot to say, but Substack has become a safe place for them to do that. Probably one of the few places that,
surprisingly,
for now,
it's you think you're just writing articles, but they incorporated a video feature, and I'm like, oh well, I'm really
they did
go in now.
That's awesome. Marco, it's been awesome, man. I'm so glad we finally got a chance to talk and catch up. I knew that there was going to be a lot of synchronicities and like-mindedness, but it was even more than I thought. So it was super enjoyable for me, man. We'll have to do it again. Keep me posted on everything. I'll let you know when this is coming out, and we'll cut some clips for our social media channels, and we'll let you know when it's all going to premiere and all that.
Absolutely. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come on. We definitely have to get on IG Live to talk about this, and we'll talk in code. But I got some more stuff I want to say.
Awesome, man. We'll do it for sure. Thank you so much for your time, Marco. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Take care. Thanks
so much. Have a good one.
You too.